Thanks, Ian. So just as a quick intro, Matt Watts, Digital Learning Manager at England Rugby. So purpose of tonight is to take you through the functionality of the new platform, England Rugby Learning. Just as a heads up, we're not going to focus too much of that time on the content that's going to be available, because you can find that through the Welcome to England Rugby Guide, which was sent out in the CGU and has been sent out on email campaigns since. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at that and the content that we'll cover. So, as Ian says, try and keep your questions specific to the slides that are on screen, because I can guarantee if you ask a question that's not on the slide, we'll be coming to a slide later on that covers that topic. So try and keep those questions to that. So why England Rugby Learning? So this forms part of a broader digital transformation we're making at the RFU to improve digital experiences for the community game. And as part of that as well, we want to try and improve and embed a bit more of a culture of learning. So at the minute, in terms of our learning offer, it's largely delivered face-to-face. There's a heavy reliance on standalone big award courses. And therefore, at best, we see people once a year. At its worst, we see people once every 5 years. So part of this transformation is also not only just about the digital, but embedding that culture of learning where people will engage with the England Rugby Learning app, hopefully on a weekly or a monthly basis to solve the problems that they're having in the game, and better support coaches, match officials and volunteers live as they try and solve those problems for themselves. More generally, we're seeing about a 10% increased demand year on year for our digital content. And that's a fairly shallow offer at the minute. So as you're probably aware, that covers introduction to safeguarding, head case, and tackle safe. As part of this transformation, we want to extend that even further and increase the breadth of the courses that we offer. So I'm going to let the video do a bit of talking for me now. You may want to have seen this video before, but this is an introduction to the platform. And then after this, we'll get stuck into some of the more detailed functionality.
Coaches, match officials and volunteers are at the heart of community rugby in England. But we've heard your feedback. Learning, knowing what's best for your development and tracking your progress hasn't always been as simple as it could be. That's why we're launching England Rugby Learning, a brand new learning platform designed to make learning easier, faster and more accessible for everyone. England Rugby Learning is mobile first, so you can learn anytime, anywhere, personalised to your role, experience and who you coach or referee. It's designed to highlight clear pathways and show what you need to do next. The platform brings all your learning into one place with clear starting points and personalised recommendations, minimum standards for each role holder to keep the game safe and deliver great experiences to players, optional modules to help you grow in areas that matter to you, completions tracked automatically and linked to your GMS profile. How do I use it? The platform will be easy to use and largely self-explanatory. However, we'll be here to support you with step-by-step guides and webinars, local workshops and face-to-face support, ongoing help from coach, match official and club developers. England Rugby Learning is all about supporting the role you play in our game by giving you the tools, clarity and support to do it with confidence. So log in, complete your active badge and get ready for the season ahead.
So the new platform aims to launch at the end of July, and we'll reference that throughout. So that's our target date at the minute is the end of July. And just to pick out a few key points there for you, we really want the platform to be mobile first, and it will be mobile first. So there'll be an app version of England Rugby Learning as well. And that was key in our decision making here around our platform choice and selection. So we're aware that the community game operates away from desktops, laptop screens, computers, and people are performing these roles in the field, in the clubhouse, in dynamic environments, and therefore we didn't want it to be constrained to a desktop experience, and therefore that was a priority for us. And therefore you may have noticed as well through that video the key focus on personalised and role-based learning. So at the minute, when you log on to Course Finder on the 1st of July, historically, you'd have seen 600 courses, but perhaps not been able to identify which courses were most relevant for your role, because you could only filter by postcode. So as an example, living up in Suffolk, I could find the closest 10 courses to me in my home address. But if I was a under nines coach, I didn't necessarily know which one of those courses was relevant to me in my role. So England Rugby Learning hopes to transform that. And by selecting some preferences as people enter the system, It will recommend them learning and content that's most relevant for their role and their experience and some of the data that we have on them. And therefore, we hope they progress a little bit quicker in the game. Remember to keep on putting your questions in the chat, by the way. I'm going to give a bit of an overview about our current state and then the future state of England Rugby, and then I'll England Rugby Learning, sorry, and then I will pause for some questions from Ian. So make sure you populate those in the chat. So I'll give a rough overview about where we are, where we're hoping to get to with England Rugby Learning, and then we'll pause to take some key questions, and then we'll get stuck into the proper detail of the different bits of functionality. So this is the current booking experience. I'm not going to spend more than a couple of minutes on here, but just to explain the differences between the current GMS course booking experience and then what you'll hopefully experience on the go live of England Rugby Learning. So at the minute, the user navigates to that course browser that we've just talked about. 1st of July, there can be 600 odd courses, limited filter options and available choices there. So a big opportunity for us through England Rugby Learning to improve that shop front and that course browsing experience. Something that we wanted to retain. So I think we're about a year in now and we've got 300,000 active accounts through single sign-on. And all that essentially means is using the same set of credentials to access all of your England Rugby Learning platforms. So England Rugby Learning will have SSO embedded into it. And what that means is you'll be able to use your exact same GMS login credentials to access England Rugby Learning. And therefore you have one account that sits across multiple touch points with us digitally. Final piece before I come on to reporting was just on retaining the experience of being able to pay in browser. So we've made that move via GMS probably 10 years ago now. So that's definitely an experience we want to retain, and having that ability to pay on mobile with a variety of different opportunities. GMS is a course booking platform. It's not a course management platform. And all that essentially means that, particularly around e-learning and digital learning, with that shallow offer of 3 courses, once we send out links to those courses, we lose ability to trace and manage completions and drive some learner behaviours around that. So GMS is purely a course booking platform, and therefore with the intent to expand our digital offer, the platform didn't necessarily complete the management of learning that we required. Final kind of widgets you can see there on the right-hand side is just around club dashboards and training. And I can take some responsibility for this because I used to look after these in my old role. We've definitely not made updates to those in at least 7 or 8 years. And therefore the data quality in them is quite poor and is not that usable to volunteers. And we're finding, particularly in the club admin space, that there's lots of volunteers creating their own workarounds, which we definitely don't want because that's adding to volunteer workload. So you'll see through this process a tidy up of those dashboards, and we're going to get into some more detail on those towards the end of this slide deck. So last slide before I come to Ian for a few questions to break up a bit. So in terms of headline learning opportunities we want to embed on England Rugby Learning, and we designed this slide about 6 months ago when we started the project, and happy to say I think we've delivered on all of these, which is pleasing. So right at the top, as you'll already know from the previous slide, we've retained the experience of that single sign-on login. So access, whether it's via web browser, desktop or mobile app, will be all through your single sign-on account. And therefore, if you've got a GMS single sign-on account, you can access England Rugby in the same way. The second 2 points around the landing page and navigation to learner profile are all about personalised experience. So when I land on the welcome page, I'll receive a personalised welcome, and some of my preferences will be set in that section. So I'll be able to choose the roles I perform as a coach, match official, or a volunteer. And equally, we know that a lot of people in the community game perform multiple of those roles. So if I'm an under-9s coach, a first aider, and a club chair, that's not too uncommon. You can select all 3 of those roles at the same time. And then what that will do, which you can see on the third widget, is it then recommends a load of content to you based on those roles. So based on what it knows about your current learning preferences, so those roles that you perform in the game, your previous course qualification history, and then the pathways recommended for your roles, the system will start to publish courses directly to you that it thinks that will be most relevant to you. And that was one of the key findings that came out alongside the digital transformation piece, was making those learning pathways really clear and obvious to the learner. And then finally, we wanted to retain that browser payment experience, which we've definitely delivered on. And then also in terms of that learning search, being able to add more functionality there. And in the future, we'll probably add some skills assessments and bits like that, which will recommend content based on an individual's self-assessment of their own ability. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour on the England Rugby Learning experience, and we're going to dive into detail into some of these processes in a second. But I'll just pause for a second if there's any key questions that have come up here.
Yep, just a few good questions in. We've probably covered off the more than one role, but yes, you can have more than one role, and as Matt just said, you can have that based on your learning preferences. So it could be a volunteer role, it could be a coach, you could be a coach, could be a match official, could be an off-pitch role. Based on your preferences, the system will surface you the course is relevant to you. So thanks, Jeanette, for that. One for you, Matt, from Jeanette again. What is meant by minimum standards, and does this mean statutory?
That's a good question. Thanks, Jeanette. So at the minute, these are highly recommended by us as a national governing body that we think are kind of the minimum operating standards, if you like, for a coach, match official, first aider to operate safely and effectively in a community game. And back to that first slide where we talked about embedding that culture of learning, we really don't want to go down this with a regulatory angle. So we want to make sure that the content, the learning experience is of such high quality that somebody wants to engage with us, complete those courses, as opposed to us forcing it through regulation. So that's definitely not our intent at this stage. Having said that, there's some broader context of some changes in government, not most recently today, but more generally through DCMS around regulating qualification frameworks, particularly for coaches and match officials. So we'll be led by their guidance in the future, but at this stage, we want to embed that culture of learning and therefore not go down a too heavy regulatory route.
Awesome. Cheers, Matt. One from Annie. Will there be a link to England Rugby Learning on GMS?
Yes, I believe there will. So someone can link out from GMS, Clubhouse, and then er.com as well.
Yeah, so Annie, that'll be under the quick links section where you can be able to quickly go into it. So yeah, good place, good question. One from Pauline, Matt. Will there be learning opportunities for CB and club on secretaries?
Yes, I believe so. In the first instance, there's some specific training for honorary secretaries. Obviously, we're making a big digital shift here in terms of learning content. So I won't be as confident as to say we've got content to solve every problem that someone might have in the game, but we will significantly expand that resource over the next year or two. But for every key role, there's some introductory training, plus some focused workshops and content on running an effective club or CB. So yes is the short answer. The longer answer is there's definitely more to come.
Awesome. One from Heather. Shall we wait to add roles on GMS until after England Rugby Learning is set up?
Good question, Heather. I'm going to steal some of my thunder for the very next slide. But yeah, role allocation on GMS isn't linked to learning preferences on England Rugby Learning. A couple of reasons for that. First one being that the data quality isn't great on GMS. So if you do a blanket search as a national governing body for the number of coaches, it brings up a lot more coaches than we have active in the game. So importing all of that data just wasn't viable. So that's one of the first reason. And the second one was we didn't want to constrain content based on role. So I may well be an under 10s coach at my local club, but I might be curious as to, I don't know, what a safeguarding officer does in a rugby club. And therefore, we didn't want to constrain content based on GMS roles. So England Rugby Learning is about setting learning preferences, things you're interested in, roles you're performing, and then GMS is for securities, permissions, central point of truth to record those roles in the game.
Awesome. And probably the last one just for this section, just let's come in. Just how will we know when it's from Bevan? How will we know when it is launched? Through our clubs, through GMS or email? How will that be?
I'll come back to that one at the very end, Ian, but remind me if I don't, because we've got that slide on comms.
Top man. I think that's it for now. Good.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ian. Thanks for the questions. Helps break up the slides a little bit as well. So thanks for that. So I'm just going to move us on. So this slide, we're going to talk about how to register for England Rugby Learning. So we've got a short video that explains that process and how that'll be completed. When I present the next few slides, you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, there's a little blue box, a very pale blue box that says desktop or mobile optimized. So the registration process, the first step in someone's registration process is to register on mobile optimized browser or desktop and not the app. And the reason for that being that setting learning preferences and that user's account setup is much more efficient on mobile browser or desktop. mainly because the app doesn't show those display screens. It does show them, but not as easily and smoothly as the desktop or the web browser. So we'll be asking people to complete that first step on either of those two processes. Once they've done that, they can then go and head into their chosen app store and downloading the Rugby Learning, and they'll probably never have to engage with the web browser version again. So setup needs to be done on a web browser, first step, and then the second step is they can go in and download that app should they want to. Graphics on the left-hand side, I forgot the name of the person who asked it, basically referenced the question that came in around GMS links. So just to say that someone may well pick up England Rugby Learning from social media, they may see it on the website, they may see it on GMS, they may see it in the clubhouse. Wherever they see it, it will link back out to this exact same process. So as with the last video, I'll let the video do the talking, and then we'll do a short pause for any questions on the registration process specifically.
Registering for England Rugby Learning is easy. Here's how. If you've previously accessed GMS, log in. Otherwise, you can create an account. If you're not sure, ask your club if they have your correct email address in GMS. Once you log in, you'll be prompted to select your learning preferences for the upcoming season. This is a vital step in your registration, as it allows us to recommend courses, resources, and updates tailored to how you support the game. After submitting your preferences, you'll be taken to the Learner Welcome page, where you'll find links to Learner homepage to track and manage all your current learning activity, communities, to connect and interact with other coaches, match officials, and volunteers. Learning search. Find courses and resources quickly and easily. England Rugby Learning is designed with a mobile-first approach, so you can access your learning anytime, anywhere. Once registered, simply download the England Rugby Learning app from your preferred app store to get started.
I realised I was talking on mute. That user guide will also be shared as part of our campaigns, which we'll talk about at the end, directly to those roles that are affected. So that will go to both learners and then also administrators in the game, again, reinforcing that key step of registering on the browser and then heading to your chosen app store to download the app, and the importance of selecting those learning preferences for us and England Rugby Learning, the system, to be able to recommend content relevant to either role or interest area. I'm just going to jump to the next one before I come to questions, Ian, because it's obviously kind of related. So second step, as you can see, the pale blue box in the left-hand corner has now changed to mobile app. So we're assuming at this stage that someone's registered for the platform and they've gone into the App Store or Google Play Store to download their version of England Rugby Learning. So this quick overview just shows you how they can access their first course. Again, this will be sent out in user guides and then also as part of our email and social media campaigns as well.
Now that you've registered for England Rugby Learning, booking your first course is easy. Here's how. Once logged in, you'll land on the welcome page. From here, select the link to your learner home. On the learner home, you'll first see your learning overview, which displays any courses assigned to you based on your learning preferences selected during registration. To get started, simply select Launch on the course you'd like to begin. Please note that some courses will have a defined due date. To book a new course, scroll through the course carousels, which show learning tailored to your role. Select a course you're interested in and follow the checkout process to enroll. If you can't find what you're looking for, use the Search for Learning toolbar. Enter the course name or topic, select the relevant option, and complete the checkout process to get started. If you need any support, visit help.rfu.com for assistance.
So one thing we've not talked about yet, which I think will probably come up in the questions about to follow, is when someone's assigned in learning, if they've downloaded the app, they'll get push notifications to their phone around course expiries, due dates, and completions. So that will all be pushed directly to their phone as long as they've obviously enabled notifications. They'll also get email reminders and versions of that as well when they get registered on the course, when they enroll on the course, and when they've got due dates and expiries. Coming up. So we want to take kind of that responsibility that currently sits with club admins, and from what we hear is a fairly thankless task, and place that back in the hands of the learner and automate some of those notifications and reminders that clubs are currently doing. Over to you, Ian, for any questions.
Yeah, awesome. One from my good friend Oscar Cavallo. When will the app be available?
So that will also be ready by end of July when the platform launches. So we'll launch those two things simultaneously. And we've really prioritized that in both the design and the selection of the platform. Like I say, mobile optimized experience was absolutely crucial for us. We'll make sure that this launches simultaneously with England Rugby Learning.
Awesome. Nothing more specific on registration or this part?
Good stuff. Thank you. So we're now just going to have a quick look at tracking progress. In the left-hand corner, you can see a very small mobile screen. Worth noting as well that these will be in user guides, so you'll be able to blow these up as you need to through Community Rugby Help once the platform launches. And you'll see we're also now back in mobile app. So the widget on the left-hand side just shows a single sign-on login. I think you've probably got the idea of that now, though, through some of the videos. So we'll go straight to the one in the middle, which talks to learner records. So this is for the individual to track their own training progress. So they'll have a training record that exists in England Rugby Learning, and then all of that training record will also export to their GMS profile. And we can talk about what views club admins will have of that in a minute. So once they're actually in the app on their training records, courses, that are active. So these are courses that have been enrolled to this individual. From memory, I selected that as a first aid with adult coach, I believe. And then you can see courses that are completed. Crucially, on this course completion page, you'll be able to download a copy of your certificate for completing that training. And then you'll also see a reference to points that are associated to that course. So you can collect points and badges related to course completions. And then back to clarity of pathway. Once a course is completed, there's some carousels at the bottom that recommend next training. So if I've just completed developing coaching practice as an example, it may well introduce me to England Rugby Coaching Award, which is the next step on the coach pathway. So what you can see in the individual user's record is the training record, which is the view that we've just been in, and then snapshots. So some courses, as you've seen there, have points associated, and there'll be leaderboards generated for all users on England Rugby Learning, and then also segmented by role. So we'll be able to have a leaderboard of all under-9s coaches nationally, as an example. And then in snapshots, you can see badges again. So if a course has got a badge associated to it, that would collect in there. For anyone who's into their fitness, think about how Strava operates, and this aims to operate in a similar way, rewarding course completions and some learner behaviours. Fair to say we've got a fairly obvious leaderboard set up at the minute in that it reports on national groups. So all groups of under-9s coaches nationally, all groups of club onsecs, because that was an example that came up earlier, all groups of safeguarding officers. In the future, we can expand that list, refine it, and get some feedback from the game, and we'll do that in consultation with our digital user groups. So we'll work with them to define some of the further parameters and some of the settings, I guess, we apply to these leaderboards in the future. Any questions, Ian?
Yes, we've got a couple. Will previous courses or workshops be uploaded on the individual profile?
Great question. Yes, is the short answer. So GMS qualifications will import to England Rugby Learning, but only if they're prerequisites for other courses. So think classically of level 2 coaching, level 2 refereeing that are prerequisites for advanced awards. They'll import and be updated in your England Rugby Learning pathway, so they don't I'll start again. In your England Rugby Learning profile, so they don't prevent you from progressing through the next step in your pathway. So you need level 2 on your England Rugby Learning profile to be able to access the advanced award, as an example. So it will, but it'd be a refined list of prerequisite qualifications that help people continue on their coach, match official, or volunteer pathway.
Awesome. A lot of P's in those sentences, Matt. Thanks, Pauline. And Kath, one from Kath. Do parents get directed to Headcase?
So for the moment, parents will have same open access to englandrugby.com. In the future, well, I say in the future, for this season, we're going to try and get a bit of an idea of demand from parents and players as well. And in the future, we may well expand our user base to include parents and players. Some good opportunities, I think, in the parent space around creating some parent zones and adding some real value to parents outside of rugby, and creating some good spaces for that. And then obviously there's some big opportunities for players here. So our first kind of use case is for coaches, match officials, and volunteers. But we're going to keep an eye on demand for learning content from parents and players in particular, and then we'll expand out as we need to in the coming seasons.
Nice one, Matt. Just one from Jill, just probably more around the usability of this. So will coaches have to go in each season to amend what age group they coach, or will that automatically move them to the next age group season by season?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's a classic one. It always comes up, and I think it's a really valid one. Again, we'll consult with user groups on that. To date, user groups tend to be fairly split on that. So there are coaches who move up every year, and then you also get clubs who say, well, we have some static coaches as well. So we'll get feedback from our user groups on the best direction there. As it currently stands, it will mirror GMS. So 1st of July each year, we'll send a reminder out to coaches, match officials, and volunteers just to recheck their learning preferences. It's literally one click, and then update those ahead of the start of the season, because that will trigger some enrollments into different learning types. If we get feedback from the user group, that should be an automated process, and we can take a look at that as well.
Awesome, Matt. Probably just a specific one from Jeanette again. What about just around play it safe? So usually a link would be shared with specific individuals within your club first before being opened up. I think it's just asking around how that would look in this platform.
Yeah, so very much the same, Jeanette, because that's a course booking, so slightly simpler process than some of the new blended courses that we're bringing out. So functionality is largely the same. Individual will be able to search by CB, club area, and then book onto courses as they need to, because that's just a standalone face-to-face instance as it stands. So similar functionality to GMS for that course, because there's no digital content currently associated with it. But yes, booking will happen from englandrugbylearning.com. Not .com, England Rugby Learning.
But just a number of questions around just around types of course and modules. Probably just to say, like, we're always looking at our courses and what they are, whether they include core values, has been mentioned a couple of times, and inclusion and targeting those. We have a team that look at all our course content all year round, and they're doing this now as we're moving into this digital world and offering these different courses. So just to probably ease your minds that we're always looking at the courses. They might not all specifically be there what you're asking, and but they are always being developed and looked at. So, and then just probably one more, Matt, and then we can move on. Just referencing, will the new learning pathways be matched by RFU course availability? So there's a couple of questions around pathways, where they would click, that type of stuff.
I think I understand the question. If it's a question on the constraints of when those courses are available, yes, we've been able to remove those as a result of embedding in the Rugby Learning for a variety of different reasons we probably don't have the time to go into now. But yes, every course type will be available throughout the season. And then excitingly, depending if you're interested in data like I am, we'll also be able to overlay this against some of that club registration data in GMS. So we'll be able to start to project course demand and volumes with greater accuracy than we've never ever been able to do before. So a lot of it before has been based on local conversations with CCC, CREFCs. List gives us a point to know who everyone is that's active in the country, and therefore be much more definite about the availability of courses. So structurally, you should see them available throughout the entire year, which is positive. And then secondly, you should see availability and the proximity of those coaches that need it, because we'll have better data that drives better decision making, essentially.
Awesome. Happy to move on.
Good stuff. So next one is a playthrough here. So first one again is on single sign-on. So I won't make you go through that. And then the second one is on communities. So this isn't a particularly interesting playthrough, but what it does show is that when someone selects learning preferences, they will then be auto-enrolled into some communities relevant to their role. So here you can see I enrolled as a first aider and then also as an adult coach. So back to that first slide where we talked about embedding that culture of learning, we will expand our course resource library and the volume of content, back to the question on the previous slide. So that will expand and evolve and improve. So we'll be able to deliver at greater depth than we've ever delivered before, because we're not reliant on only delivering face-to-face. So that's a big improvement there. And then the second one is around, for the user, then being able to learn socially. So we know that lots of learning happens away from courses, and this is a space where we can facilitate that. So our first aider, as an example, may come across a scenario that they've not come across before as a first aider, and then share that confidentially, given the nature of their role with that group, and get feedback from peers on how they might push that forwards. Another example of that might be, we've recently done some filming in camp with the under-18s around tackle height. Tackle height in the under-18 game has been a particular issue this year, in that we haven't seen a reduction in the tackle height as quickly or as regularly as we wanted it to. So we may choose as a national governing body to give that group of under-18 coaches, an example, access to some specific resource to them that they can then discuss in a forum. So we may start clipping up some under-18 training sessions as an example, putting those in those forums, and then getting people to feedback on what they're seeing and how it might apply to their coaching. So yeah, embedding the culture of learning by helping people to solve some problems themselves. And then there'll also be a little bit of us understanding what's happening in the game. And that under-18 tackle height one's a really good example of where we know it's an issue in the game, and then us being able to address that immediately as a national governing body with some tailored and specific resource straight to that group, so they can consume it in seconds and yeah, share it with peers essentially. Any questions on that one, Ian?
No, all good.
Okay, cool. And fair to say, actually, I meant to say, in terms of user groups, we'll also consult with them on expanding this. So at the minute, it's constrained to national roles, much like the leaderboard is. But if there is a demand and I guess a request to expand those groups, then we'll look at that in consultation with the feedback we get from our user groups. So next one, again, it's not particularly interesting to play through this one because it's somebody purchasing a voucher, but is to share the new functionality on England Rugby Learning called Training Unit Key Codes, which in normal language is just vouchers. So this is the voucher functionality that sits on England Rugby Learning. It works in very much the same way as it did on GMS. The big difference is how it's distributed. So on GMS, you purchase a voucher for a specific course type. So I may well choose to purchase 10 places on Play It Safe. And then as a club administrator, I would be responsible then for handing those out virtually. So I may assign one place on Play It Safe to Ian. I may assign another place on it to Bob, whoever that might be. So it's on me as the admin to distribute those. The difference here with England Rugby Learning is that it generates more of a gift voucher or a code, which is the key code. And then that's able to be shared off the site by the club administrator or the user to a number of other users. So you can see an example email on the right-hand side. It produces a 10-digit key code. And then that person may choose to forward that email onto the recipient. They may choose to copy and paste it into a WhatsApp message. They may choose to share it in the clubhouse after training for that person to put straight into the checkout. But yeah, the distribution happens away from the platform. It's not constrained to any individual learning object. It's just a value against that key code that an individual can use in that checkout process. This is accessible through the My Account section. And again, there's heaps of user guides on how to do this through payment methods. And then the key codes equal a value. So one key code equals £1. So I think in this example, I purchased £100 worth of key codes. And then after that checkout process, it would generate that key code value for me. In terms of reminders, on purchase, you'll get an email copy of that 10-digit key code. You'll also then get a monthly balance reminder, and you'll also get notification when someone uses it. So after I've generated that £100 of key codes, let's say I distributed that key code to Ian to buy a £15 place on Play It Safe. I, as the administrator or the purchaser, would get an email to say, Ian Renard has used £15 of your key codes, and this is the course in which he used it on. When your balance drops below £10, you'll also get a notification. And then when you're close to the annual expiry, you'll also get a notification then too. Any questions on that one, Ian?
Yeah, just one from Pauline again. Will the administrator be able to get a list of who has signed on and used their voucher?
Yeah, so that would come in that reminder email. So I would get every time that someone uses that voucher, I'd get an email notification or that key code, and it would tell me Ian Renard has used key code XYZ for one place on Play It Safe. So you'd get that update every time that someone books on a course. Obviously, a club CB decision on how much they put against each key code.
Awesome. And one from David. Can the purchases be limited to a specific course?
At this stage, they can't, so they're open access, but you can obviously limit it by who you send it to. So you may choose to generate a key code for every individual member of your club. You may choose to make that broader. And clearly, if you run into any issues, i.e. someone uses the key code for the wrong course purchase, you can flag that with us and we can reset and adjust as needed.
Nice. And one from Heather. Can people purchase vouchers individually?
Yes, so there's no security restrictions or constraints on vouchers. All I would say is there's no real benefit in purchasing a key code for yourself because you're only going to use it on yourself, if that makes sense. So they can be purchased for an individual, but the individual purchasing key codes to book a course place doesn't really have any value because it's just a transition of value from the, I guess, cash amount, card amount into a key code.
All good. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. So final few slides on process or new processes. Externally recognised qualifications. So fair to say, since we turned off delivering first aid ourselves, so we're no longer a first aid training provider, and that's externally outsourced to some recommended training providers. Clubs haven't been able to report on first aid accurately, mainly due to self-service on GMS and that not being tidied up for a little while. So England Rugby Learning hopes to solve that. So currently, an individual can head on to GMS and self-serve. Let's stick with the first aid example, first aid training. The issue we have at the minute is the text box is freeform. So every time someone puts an uppercase L and a lowercase e, compared to someone who does that in uppercase, it creates a brand new qualification. So for those that are Club Rugby Safe leads and are responsible for Regulation 9 in their clubs or CVs, will know that reporting on GMS, I wouldn't say it's useless, but it's definitely not useful because there's over 300 different types of first aid qualifications, and therefore it becomes pretty difficult to track that. So the process you'll see here, again, it's not particularly exciting one because it's me filling out a form, is someone registering their external qualification. And you'll note at the top, we've currently limited this to level 3 first aid at work, and then World Rugby level 2 and 3 course equivalents, because they're essential to the pathways or learning opportunities for first aiders, coaches, and match officials. Again, we'll consult with our user group and get feedback from them on whether this list needs to be expanded, but we've intentionally kept it quite tight to enable accuracy of reporting on GMS and not find ourselves in a situation that we currently are in with self-service on GMS. So you can see the individual filling out that form there, and then at the bottom attaching a certificate, and then they submit that. When we come on to GMS reporting in a second, all of these will be reportable in a new dashboard for first aiders. So clubs will have a concise view of not only the number of first aiders in their clubs, but how many of them are meeting the requirements under Regulation 9 and have an active first aid qualification. Worth noting here, there's no approvals process that sits over this. So there's not somebody who sits at the RFU who's going to go through all of these and approve these. So this is a declaration by the individual that they've completed this course. It's on a club or a CB or a deployer to validate that qualification in whatever way they see fit. So this is a declaration that we're reporting on. We're not approving it as a qualification. We're definitely not approving the expiries or the certificate itself. That's a club role in relation to Regulation 9, but hopefully the technology enables you to report on it a little bit more effectively once you've completed those checks, back at your club or organisation.
Matt, just to rewind a second for one question that came in just on those vouchers again. Can clubs book closed courses, for example, Play It Safe, as currently, and then share the codes with their members only?
So the purchaser can share it with whoever they like, so that's not constrained. Play It Safe is probably the only example going forwards of where a club may be able to request a Play It Safe course for members if they've got particular demands. So there's a couple of different ways that we might be able to facilitate that on the system. But yeah, usual admin processes apply there. So get in touch directly and we'll see what we can facilitate. But the key codes are definitely only constrained to who you share them with as opposed to the game more broadly.
Amazing, that's all.
Cool. So as we move on, appreciate this is a rather small screen, but what you can see on here is basically an early sight of how the dashboards will display on GMS. So right in the top row, you'll see the focus on allocation to team. So in this example, it shows a total number of teams in my club, and then how many of those teams have got allocated coach roles to them, how many of them are unallocated. So this dashboard will only work with a good data set from a club perspective or a CV perspective that allocates roles effectively. And then what it does then on those 4 widgets that sit below it is see how your individual roles are tracking with meeting those minimum standards that are outlined in that document that's been referenced a few times. So in this example here, you can see that 70% of my coaches at this club are meeting the minimum standards, and there's a couple that aren't. Then a breakdown of the individual courses that make up those minimum standards for those roles. All of this is clickable. So if I want to see just the coaches that are meeting minimum standards, I'll click on that one. If I want to see those that aren't yet meeting minimum standards, I click on that grey box, and it will show me the courses that are currently missing to enable that role to meet minimum standards. Importantly for first aid, you can see first aid award that's at the top of that first aider profile, and that's pulling directly from that external qualifications declaration on GMS, and then is adding to that total on that dashboard. So yeah, all clickable, all reportable for different roles, and hopefully you can start to see anyway the big uplift here. And then there'll also be individual reports available for coaches, match officials, first aiders, and volunteers alike as well, which breaks down not only the minimum standards but their DBS status as well. From an individual's personal view, so there'll be a new tile called Learning for Club Admins, and then for the individual, they'll also have access to a new tab called Learning from their profile. And in a similar way to this, that new learning profile will amalgamate the historical education and qualifications tabs, because no one could define the difference between the two. And whenever I got asked questions about it, I always found it difficult to define as well. So we've amalgamated that into a clear single view of learning. So all historical course completions will remain on GMS, will be visible through that learning tab and accessible. And then also if that person is assigned as a role, so let's say I'd assigned Ian as a first aider at my club as a club admin, Ian would see on his learning profile that he is assigned the role of first aider at Invincible's RFC, and then he would also see what courses he needs to complete on England Rugby Learning. So Ian can track his historical completions on GMS as the first aider, and then see what courses he'll need to complete on England Rugby Learning to meet the minimum standards in his role, and therefore update this dashboard. Over to you for questions, Ian.
Yeah, just one from, well, there's a couple coming in now, yeah. So one from Paul, is Rugby Safe lead. Will he be able to update people's accounts to say they've completed a satisfactory first aid course? Or will that show on the dashboard?
It will show on the dashboard by virtue of that external qualification, yeah. So if that individual declares that external qualification and they've completed that correctly on England Rugby Learning, that'll be reportable in that dashboard. So when you click on that first aid awards, you'll get that full list of qualified first aiders, including the dates that their qualifications expire.
Yes, cool. Just a couple. One from Jeanette. Can you clarify again which first aid qualifications will currently be acceptable on the new platform? She appreciates it may change, but what will be acceptable?
Yeah, don't quote me on this because it's not my area of expertise, but emergency first aid at work equivalents, which is an 8-hour course. And then on the previous screen, in that top toolbar, you'll see some links on the external qualifications. There's some links out to acceptable standards. So that links out to the Regulation 9 guidance and qualification frameworks, which are equivalents of the qualification we're looking for. So before the individual completes that form, hopefully they have a look at that equivalency framework and they can see which qualifications are acceptable or not in accordance with Reg 9.
Cool, and just a clarity piece, Matt, just from Zoe, just around how do you allocate an individual to an age group?
There'll be user guides on that, but that happens in team management. So look out for the user guides, or actually they won't change. That functionality won't change in GMS. So if you head to Community Rugby Help and type in role allocation, you should see the simple process to do that. Very final point on this, which I forgot to mention, is this will obviously bring you up a view of people who have either met the minimum standards or not. Messaging here is to resist the temptation to reinforce the fact that they may not have met minimum standards yet digitally. So back to one of our first slides, they'll already be getting push notifications from the app. They'll already be getting emails to update them on their progress through minimum standards and next steps in their coaching, match official, or volunteer pathway. So please resist the temptation to reinforce that again on GMS for another digital reminder. Where club admins can add real value in my mind is those in-person nudges and holding people accountable face-to-face, which is probably going to have more impact than an additional reminder. So we've taken that workload away from the likes of CCCs, CREFCs, safeguarding officers who are constantly chasing for those course completions or those learning completions. The ask is trust the system. We've brought on those automations to take some of that workload away from you, and then just make sure you can amplify your impact face to face with some of those key volunteers, and we'll take care of the digital reminders for you.
Couple more, Matt.
Yeah.
There's some specifics around first aid. Probably what I would say around the first aid, guys, if you've got some real specifics, if you submit a ticket on Community Rugby Help, one of the team will come back to you. Here's one for you, Matt, from Paul. If there are multiple coaches per team, do all coaches need to meet minimum standards, or is it just the head coach? I suppose this differs in every club, Matt. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. These are minimum standards for coaches across the board, regardless of role. So these aren't segmented by head coach, assistant coach, but these are for active coaches. So different between every club. We would never want to define that, but these are the minimum standards for these roles in their entirety. And as I say, likely that there's going to be some further government legislation in the next year or two, which will reinforce some of our approach here and perhaps change it, but we will be led by them on that.
Cool. And one from Christine. Again, we've had this earlier, but we'll just cover it off again because it's obviously coming up again. Will the year group volunteers go up in age group automatically each season? We'll consult our user groups on this as we move forward, but there's a 50-50 split at the moment. Some obviously do move up with age groups at clubs, but equally we have a lot of clubs where coaches stay at the same age groups and certainly at some levels. So we'll go through the user groups with that, and that'll be a change that will come for next season, and we'll obviously communicate that. One for you, Matt, from Fiona. Do you have to use the app? Is there any other way?
No, so you don't have to use the app. The app's purely optional. So you can use desktop, mobile, any other device to access the learning as you need to. So it doesn't have to be on an app. You don't have to download the app. You can still consume that just on a browser.
Awesome. Just another one from Paul. If the coaches don't update with their own first aid certificate, can I update their account for them once I receive their certificate?
Good question. I don't think so is the short answer, because this is linked on the action of the learner taking responsibility. So again, back to some of this cultural change, there's an over-reliance on club admins to process some of that stuff for individuals. And we want the individuals to take care of their own record and be responsible for their own record. So they'll have to submit that for England Rugby Learning. You clearly have an approval process in your club to manage that for yourselves. But at this stage, we're not thinking that we're going to create an override for club admins to do that in GMS, because we really want to reinforce that behaviour of the individual taking care of their own learning.
Cool. And just one final question here. Has safeguarding training been updated to make it more relevant?
So all of our course training is constantly under review. Safeguarding training in particular is going to go through a review cycle in the next 6 months or so. So there's been no adaptations perhaps only to introduction to safeguarding, but for play it's safe and in touch. The delivery format is the same for certainly the first half of the season, but that's one of our big courses and content section to review is safeguarding training in the next 6 months. So I'd imagine you'll see some changes in that space shortly.
Amazing. Thanks, man.
Cool. So I'm just going to outline some next steps in the last 5 minutes or so, and then obviously welcome any other questions. So to give you some confidence, I think we recently reached around 200,000 engagements on the communications we've sent out so far. So you'll have seen updates through our Community Rugby Instagram page and probably more local social media. And then you'll have seen some of the CRM stuff, hopefully in the CGU, which is the community game update. So through our email campaigns, social media, and the community game updates, I think that we've probably interacted with around 200,000 people. So hopefully now there's a good awareness in the game that England Rugby Learning is coming. And what that will follow up with on the launch day is communications directly to those learners that will be affected. So everyone who's in one of those key roles as a learner, and then also a club administrator's perspective. So both those people will be directly communicated with, on the launch date, alongside some further social media work. We'll also be running some paid campaigns and adverts across social media, Spawn and Pitch Hero, from the launch date into September and the start of the season, just to make sure, we appreciate the fact that not everybody reads emails, particularly if they're big campaign emails. So we just want to make sure we get that message in front of many people as possible. Again, trying to minimise the workload on particularly club admins to get that message out to their volunteers. It's been referenced a fair few times already on the call. Community Rugby Help will be the central point for user guides, raising tickets, understanding on some of these processes in a little bit more detail. So depending on your role in the game, if you're a coach or a learner, match visual first aider, you may well just be consuming content, but we appreciate, particularly for administrators, there's lots of other functionality that you might access in England Rugby Learning or on GMS. So rest assured, there's a user guide, we hope, for pretty much every situation you might face. And then really importantly, if you are struggling, make sure that you log a ticket there, because we want to track those tickets, particularly over the first 2 to 4 weeks of implementation. So we get an idea around where people are getting stuck, if at all, and then remove some of those barriers as quickly as we can. So absolutely vital that you seek help through Community Rugby Help and raise your tickets here so we can track how people are finding the app, what articles are helpful, which ones are not, and crucially, if they're coming stuck. Please resist the temptation, as great as our local staff are, to raise some of these questions with them. Because we want to track the implementation through that ticketing process. And then finally, as Ian's referenced, this recording will go on England Rugby YouTube alongside some of those videos which are already on that site that you've seen tonight. So we'll expand that resource out as we head towards the launch date, so we can inform the game as much as possible about some of the changes and then how they'll access the system. That was it from me in terms of slides, Ian. So just last few questions.
Yeah, awesome. Just one on dashboards. Will club safeguarding officers and CB safeguarding managers be able to see this information about the coaches learning?
Yes. So there'll be further guidance issued on training dashboards, which will be on Community Rugby Help, and we'll probably also email those club admins that will have access. But at the minute, we believe it will be pitched at level 2 access on GMS, which means anybody who's got access to the people grid and therefore can see someone's qualificational learning history will also have access to the dashboards and reporting.
Cool. One from Rob. For currently booked safeguarding courses due in September, will potential attendees have to book on via this new platform?
Yes, that's correct. So if your club is already registered in England Rugby, if your club is already registered to Play It Safe course for next season, that is likely already on England Rugby Learning. So when it launches, your club volunteers will be able to book directly onto that course through England Rugby Learning.
Oh, I think this may be relating to a self-service piece, but what happens if the coaches don't want to do the paperwork? Some really don't think they need to tell the RFU what they are qualified in. Is there any way for the data officer to do it?
I think that relates back to the previous one. So I'd be interested in going through tickets if the issue is like a technical one in terms of coaches, first aiders, volunteers, whoever it is, are finding that process too cumbersome. We like to think we've made that as simple as possible. I think there's only 6 fields, and you can access that form in 1 second from the homepage. So we like to feel like we've removed a lot of barriers for the individuals. And that's probably the only spot at the minute in terms of regulation where there's a regulatory requirement to keep an accurate record of that qualification. So yes, at the minute it sits with the individual. Like I say, if we're finding that process is becoming cumbersome, we can review it, and we'll get that consultation and feedback from our user groups too.
Just linked to sticking the safeguarding theme here. So once the learners have completed their safeguarding learning, will it be through the usual route on GMS to start their DBS?
Yes, for introduction to safeguarding. Yeah, so the new introduction to safeguarding course in England Rugby Learning will link directly to the DBS process after the 1st of August when the platform is already embedded. So yes, is the answer. The new England Rugby Learning introduction to safeguarding will be linked with the DBS process. So we've got some assurance that the individual has completed some basic training and then also has got DBS.
Awesome. Cheers, Matt. And then just a couple of questions that we covered earlier in the session, but when is the launch date?
Yeah, so launch date is end of July, despite the fact that as classically with technology, you'll see various different suggested dates. We haven't communicated those. The launch date is the end of July. And as I say, on that launch date, those learners and club admins will be contacted directly with an update to tell them how they can access the platform and that it's live.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt. Just check there's any more. Yeah, just one last one from Zoe, just around on team management. You can assign roles to a team in GMS, so coach, team manager, first aider, and volunteer. And Zoe's asking the question: will we be adding a safeguarding option so we can report on provision in each age groups? I suppose with the answer to that, Zoe, is every club is different and how they set up and whether they require. We take feedback on that report all the time and what that looks like from clubs. Matt, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that.
No, not at this stage, like you say. Just at the minute, it's constrained to coaches, match officials, first aiders, and volunteers because they're the kind of key roles. The dashboard relates specifically to safeguarding, isn't necessarily constrained by team because it's obviously safeguarding is everyone's role in terms of interaction. So it's a little bit different in that the training isn't constrained to just coaches, first aiders, volunteers. It applies across them all. So safeguarding is a little bit different in that respect. And we'll just make sure you've got an amalgamated view of everyone who's in date with those key qualifications, essentially.
Excellent. Thanks. And that's all the questions. I just want to thank you all for your time. Thanks to Matt for joining us to tell us all the exciting developments on England Rugby Learning. Don't forget that this session is available on Community Rugby Digital YouTube. Please share it amongst the rugby community. Look out for the comms when we go live. Everything else is a rumor. We've said by the end of July, you'll get the official comms from us centrally when we are live. So it's really exciting time. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.